Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, the Mad Kite, and it's been a while since I've done a video. I did sort of say there's a lot of stuff going on in my personal life um, right now. So yeah, but today I'm just gonna get straight to it, and actually I am doing a game review. It's been a while since I've done a game review. And I'm going to be reviewing a game that I have played today and beaten, and actually it took me 25 years to finally beat this game. And that game is Star Wars Jedi Power Battles Remastered. Yes, this was a game that was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Now, the original game came out on the PS1, the Sega Dreamcast, Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance, and was kind of met with minimal fanfare. Now, it was a game that I had on the PS1. I remember playing the PS1 version and never actually beating past level 2. I could never get past level 2. Now, a few months ago, I actually played the original version on PS1 again on my PS3 and was met with similar problems. Now, you realise just the PS1 version was a very clunky game. It was very clunky. The graphics weren't amazing. They haven't lived up aged very well. Unfortunately, PS1 games don't age very well with the graphics department. At least a majority of them don't anyway. And, but the idea of it was pretty fun. It was a sort of arcade style beat 'em up slash hack 'em slash game. And took place during episode 1. And obviously had, multiple playable characters, the Jedis that were in the movie, of course, and some unlockable characters along the way. Now, again, the problem I had with the original version was just three main things. One, the controls were overcomplicated for the time and actually take a while to get used to. And it seems like it's one of those games, once, even though you know the controls, you're still struggling to remember the controls. It's very overcomplicated. The second thing was the notorious difficulty of these games. These games were extremely difficult for its time. And, there was and another thing, there was a bunch of bugs as well with the game. There was a bunch of things that were incomplete about the game. One of the biggest things was the game had 2 difficulty settings, yet there was no difference between the difficulty settings. It had unlockable things that you couldn't unlock. It had things that were unable to. There was no cheats. There was no codes. There was nothing, and it was full of all these problems. Now, the remastered version is actually based on the Sega Dreamcast version, which actually is considered to be the superior version of the original 2 games, right? Now, it makes sense. The Dreamcast was the more powerful console compared to a PS1. Dreamcast was on par with maybe PS2 level of power when you think about it. So it makes sense that the Dreamcast version was the one to remaster. Now, it's been remastered by Aspyr, who also did the remaster for a majority of the classic Star Wars games that have been ported to modern consoles, which is awesome. I'm hoping the next one is Revenge of the Sith remastered, because that game was awesome. And I'd love to see them do pretty much what they've done in this remaster, which we'll get to in a minute. And now, of course, they did port the very poorly received Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection, which, yes, I don't even need to talk about that game. That game was met with many, many aggravating comments and very negativity amongst both nostalgia players and modern players, right? But anyway, now, what exactly has been improved, what's new in the game, and what I think is better about the game. So, of course, the graphics are much more sharper. Everything looks more clearer. Now, I'm not going to lie. While I was playing through the first 2 levels that I had beaten as a kid over and over again, I noticed that in this version of the game, there was a lot of differences through some of the levels. Now, I don't know, especially on the first level, there's a part where you have to run along these moving platforms and jump. But in this one, it didn't have the jumps. Now, I don't know if it had the original in the Dreamcast one, but it's slightly different. And it feels like I'm playing a bit of a different experience, right? Because it's not the one that I grew up with. But let me know in the comments below if the Dreamcast version was basically the same or not. Now, another thing that's been improved is the controls. You have modern controls and classic controls. Now, I'm not going to lie, I didn't notice too much difference. I haven't tried the classic controls, but when I was playing the game, everything felt a lot more smoother, but it still felt pretty challenging. And sometimes it seemed like when you're deflecting bullets, sometimes they wouldn't deflect. You have to be, your timing's got to be perfect. But everything felt smoother. I did struggle with some of the platforming jumping in this one, but nowhere near to the level that I struggled in the original version on the PS1. So I felt like the controls are improved. As well as that, there are a bunch of new cool things about the game. All 8 original, I think there was all 9. All 9 original characters are fully playable from the start. So no, 10 original characters. So the original PS1 game, all I remember was Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Plo Koon, Adi Gorar, and Mace Windu, with unlockable characters Darth Maul, Captain Panaka, and Padme. Now, the Dreamcast version also had Ki-Adi-Mundi as an unlockable character as well. But this version, you start with all 10 characters, including a pilot droid, or a battle droid, which is kind of fun. Now, obviously, the caveat between when you play the main story mode, everything's unlocked. So all of those 10 characters are unlocked and ready to play. And you can choose any mission at any given time. In the old game, you couldn't do that. Now, it's very important to know this. When you start the game, every time you want to continue and you want to play it again, always hit continue game. If you start a new game, all your files are deleted and all your unlockables, all your progress and the leveling up is gone. That's important to know. Now, there are, now in the main game, obviously, as you're going along, every time you beat a level, there's a point system in it and there's items and things you can do. And there are 10 main levels in the main game. I managed to beat this game and I'll get to that in a minute. And the levels feel varied, and there are some levels which are quite straightforward, just get to the end of the level and kill a boss, and there are some levels that are a little bit more challenging, like having to escort Anakin Skywalker to the end of the level, having to protect things, having to find pilots and handmaidens. And there was also a level where you're flying around on a little stap speeder bike, you know, the little things that the droids fly around on episode 1, which is kind of cool. Now, I played the game on easy mode and I managed to beat the game, and I only died once. Now, in easy mode, I noticed you still have lives, but it seems like you have 10 lives. Now, in the original game, you only had 5 lives and there was no way of getting more lives. But like I said, Jedi mode and easy mode were exactly the same on PS1. Now, I haven't tried Jedi mode yet, but I'm assuming Jedi mode in this game probably is the classic version where the enemies are a little bit more tougher and you probably only have 5 lives. Now, there are a lot of levels in the game where you can get infinite lives because every time you die. Some of the glitches are still in the game, like the notorious handmaiden glitch, where if you die at a specific part, you can actually go back and re-rescue the handmaidens you've already rescued, but the number goes up rather than, you know, you don't go down to 1 rescued handmaiden when you die. You'll still have 3 and you can go back and get 5. So that's pretty cool to know, and I was just surprised. Now, as well as those unlockable characters, as you progress through the game, you get new abilities, you get stronger, you can level up your health and your force, you get new combos, etc., and new abilities. Now, obviously, there are 4 abilities per character, 3 force abilities, and a grenade that you can throw. And of course, blaster characters have slightly different thing. I played as a battle droid and some of the other characters, which I'll get to in a minute. But I noticed when I was playing as a battle droid, there was no XP. You couldn't level up. I think the caveat is because he can upgrade. They don't have force abilities. They only have like 2 melee attacks. but they can shoot at range. So that's kind of the caveat and the balancing system, I guess. Now, when you beat the game, you also unlock a new game plus mode, which have 13 new characters, which are basically just enemies that you fought in the game, with the exception of Jar Jar as well. Now, these are all generic characters that you fought. Like, there's 3 different battle droids. You can play as a droidica, you can play as Tusken Raiders, and then these mercenary characters that you fight on Coruscant level. And obviously, but in New Game Plus mode, you don't have any XP leveling up and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit kind of like, okay, that's kind of cool that you've got 13 new playable characters. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like you need to go back and replay it as those characters. It's just kind of a cool little, you know, it's kind of like a cool little gimmick, I guess, like a cool little gimmick that you can actually play as the characters you've been fighting throughout the game. And it is kind of cool to just roll around this droidica. Now, the game also has cheats as well. Now, I noticed some of the cheats I kept doing without realising. Obviously, there's like big head mode, big feet mode. Obviously, there's a mode, one way you can get like a radar on your screen. One way you can get restart checkpoint. And you can also, believe it or not, if you actually go into the menu and before the character select, you can actually unlock a hidden character known as the loader droid, which is the first boss in the game, which is the big droid with the giant arms. And I thought that was a cool little caveat as well. That's kind of a cool little thing. I've always enjoyed games where you actually get to play as enemies and basic grunts, if you will. In many ways, it reminds me of Castle Crashers a little bit, because all of the characters in that you can unlock. But again, it kind of changes the game up a little bit, because you're having to play as weaker characters, I guess. But I do like the upgrading throughout the game and getting stronger. Now, in addition to this, you also have 4 bonus missions in the game, which are like mini games / bonus missions. You have one where you've got to play as a droidica and get to the end of the level while taking out the Naboo pilots. There's one where you've got to do like a button mashing thing and race on the creatures on Naboo. I couldn't do it, but I still got the achievement for doing the level. It doesn't matter if you win or not. There's a survival mission, and there's a cool little Gungan roundup mode where you basically have to like, it's like almost like a football type game, but you're hitting Jar Jar and he runs to one side of the screen and goes into the goals or something. It's kind of stupid but funny. And as well as that, it also has a 1v1 training mode where you can do a 1 versus 1 fight against another player or another bot, which is kind of cool, like a duel mode. A bit like in Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, where you have the 1v1 mode. It's not as good as that, but it's still pretty fun to try out. And you can have a bit of a laugh with it, where you're trying to be the big boss and screwing your friend over, getting your friend around, like, oh yeah, I'm going to play as this guy, and oh, I'll be a droid, and you're a massive, big ass fucking monster thing, right? Now, I'm not going to lie, I felt bittersweet when I beat this game. I managed to beat the game in about 3 hours. And like I said, I managed to beat the game. It was still challenging, but all of the creases have been ironed out. I never struggled on any of the bosses. That's one thing. In the old game, I always struggled on one of the bosses, and I couldn't never. You had to be pinpoint, and I feel like in this game they've increased the hitbox to make it more easier to hit enemies and a bit easier. So I don't know exactly the difference between Jedi mode and easy mode in this one, but there is an achievement for beating the game on both normal mode and Jedi mode, so I'm assuming Jedi mode is more increased difficulty, etc. Now the achievements in this game for achievement hunters are very simple in this game. Beat the levels, play certain levels as certain characters. Like I said, you don't even need to beat all the levels, win them. You can, like the survival mode and that, you don't even need to beat it to get the achievement, just play the level. So it's fairly easy, and the game has single player and couch co-op, 2-player only, no online, unfortunately. Now the game is on sale for $16.74 or $18, I believe. And I think that's a fair price, to be fair. The game isn't overly long. I feel like the longevity of this game is kind of going back and replaying it as a different character, just to say that you've done it. So, you know, you don't get any bonuses for doing these things. But, you know, I assume, like I said, those cheats, they don't deactivate anything, by the way. So if you activate a cheat code, you don't lose your achievements or anything. These are just all cosmetic or ones that just make the game a bit more funky, apart from the loader droid boss character cheat. All in all, like I said, I felt bittersweet because I felt like this game was a lot easier than the one that I grew up playing. But I'm happy that I've managed to beat the game and say that I have beaten the game. I've seen all the levels. I beat Darth Maul without any cheat codes, no bullshit, nothing. You know I played it on easy mode. But my friend's going to come over tomorrow and we're going to try out 2-player mode and see if we can beat it 2-player. I think we're going to do it with the standard characters. Oh, and there's also one thing I forgot to mention. Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber. Yes, in the original game, Mace Windu had a blue lightsaber. A.D. Gara had a red lightsaber. Plo Koon had a yellow lightsaber. And I think Ki-Adi-Mundi had a blue, and Darth Maul only had a single lightsaber. So all of those have been fixed as well. So you can actually do that. Oh, and you can also toggle on ultimate saber mode. So if you want to make the game, you want to play for it overpowered, you can toggle on ultra saber mode. But I think you only get that by beating the survival mode. I could be wrong, because I never seen it when I was playing the game. But then when I beat the survival mode, I went back and tried out some other characters and it was showing it up. So all in all, it's a game that I'm happy that I finally beaten. It still maintains some of the annoying things that the original game did. The controls are still a bit janky, and it takes some getting used to. The platforming can be a bit frustrating at times. The enemies can be extremely annoying as well, constantly blocking, ganging up on you, and you can't move, or they're constantly throwing you up in the air and pushing you off the edge of the levels and stuff like that. So it still can be a bit janky, but it's playable, and you know you can get past these things. You might get a bit frustrated once in a while, but all in all, I think the game was fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to trying out co-op mode and seeing what else to come. Do I think this game's going to get any updates or anything throughout the years? Probably not, but I think it would be awesome if Aspire do Revenge of the Sith and basically do what you did for this game in Revenge of the Sith, where you could unlock other characters to play through and do like a new game plus mode and unlock more characters, more versus mode, bonus modes and stuff like that. I would love that. I think that's what people would want. But what I would also like for this game is maybe do a similar thing. Maybe add characters from other films into the game. You know, like imagine playing as a clone trooper or Darth Vader or Yoda or something like that. You know, I think that'd be kind of cool. Just add them as playable characters. You know, like I said, the 13 secret characters or the new characters are kind of fun, but they're a bit basic. So, but they're still pretty fun. All in all, I think Jedi Power Battles Remastered is a great fun game. It has got the nostalgia factor for those people who grew up with it. And I think it will make a lot of people happy that they were able to beat the game a lot easier on this one than you could in the old one. That's my experience. It's bittersweet, but I still am happy that I finally got to see the final credits screen, right? Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. So it's been a review. I'm going to give this game, I'm going to give it a 3.5 stars, maybe a 4 stars out of 5. Like I said, it's not perfect in any way, but it is enjoyable. And it has got the nostalgia factor. And I think people who grew up with this game probably can appreciate that they've tried to bring back a game that probably not many people are asking to be brought back. But the small few that did want to play this game again will probably be happy with it. And the price point is fantastic. You know, £18 basically, give or take, for a fun game. So, as always, guys, leave a like if you enjoyed this video. I will try and do some more reviews and game stuff. Just a lot going on at the moment, and that. So, and as always, guys, Have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm just watching some Pimp My Ride. Day for nostalgia for me. Nostalgia game, nostalgia TV show. As always, guys, I will see you in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye.